Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all I hope you are all fighting that war against the grey. This video is for newer players or players thinking of getting into a newer army. I've been asked a lot of questions lately about what I think of particular start collecting boxes, which ones are good value, which ones allow you to progress in an army well, and which ones give you units that are actually going to be used in the army for it. So what I'm going to do is be doing a series of every start collecting box, going through it, talking about the units that are in it and reviewing how well they progress with the army that you're playing and if they are worth buying multiple times and things like that. And also I'll be looking at some sort of stuff of where you can go with these armies next. So with that out of the way, let's get looking into the first one, which is one very close to my heart, and it's the Start Collecting Anvilguard Box. So, first of all, you might realise that there's no actual army called Anvilguard, and that is because Anvilguard is a sub-faction of the Cities of Sigmar army. So this box, in essence, is really Start Collecting Cities of Sigmar, sub-faction Anvilguard. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Anvilguard is about. So Anvilguard is sort of an army that favours having big monsters. They get special additional traits in them. They also have some really good spell laws, so go well with some good wizards. And their spells also allow you to potentially ignore armor saves, which means units with high volume of attacks go really well in this army as well. Your army can be immune to battle shock quite easily, and you've generally got command points to spare with some certain command abilities and stuff, giving you access to a lot of command points in the army. So, with that in mind, we'll look at the Start Collecting box and see how good of value it is for that particular army. And so in the Start Collecting box we have a Blackout Fleet Master, 10 Blackout Corsairs, a Charybdis kit can also be built as a War Hydra, though in the Start Collecting box it is suggested to build as a Charybdis, and a Scourge Runner Chariot, which can also be built as a Drakespawn Chariot, and once again is recommended to be the Scourge Runner Chariot. So, let's start with our character. We have the leader of the box, which is the Blackout Fleet Master. You can see him up the front with his sword leg. He is a Scourge Privateer hero, which is a sub-faction of Elven pirates within the Cities of Sigmar. And he is a pretty flimsy character on the face of it, but does have a really good command ability for any other Scourge Privateer units. He allows units to gain +1 attack on all their combat weapons, which is really cool when we start looking at other units in this army have lots of different attack profiles for combat. So he on himself is not really that great a piece, but he does help benefit a lot of the other pieces in the box, and thus is a really good fit for this box. We then start looking at the Battleline Options, of which all of these units can become Battleline in various ways within this box. So, Blackout Corsairs and the Scourge Runner Chariot become Battleline if a Fleet Master is our general. The Charybdis can become Battleline if we are playing in Anvilguard sub-allegiance. So what that means is if this Blackout Corsair is your general, you can then take all units in this box as Battleline. Moving on to the Battleline units, and we have first of all the 10 Blackout Corsairs that we get within the box. They are relatively cheap troops, coming in at a nice 80 points, and do get a horde discount when they get bigger, but they have two main options. You can either arm them with 2 different combat weapons, of which have different profiles, so this combines well with the Blackout Corsair Fleet Master's command ability, giving them 2 extra attacks instead of just 1 because their weapons are different. They can instead choose to have the lesser combat weapon and be armed with a handbow, which gives them some shooting ability, although relatively short ranged. This can be useful in large numbers, but it is short ranged and it is potentially has some issues with hitting, so it is a bit up in the air on whether that is worth doing or not. For building your first box of Start Collecting Anvilguard, I would strongly suggest building combat weapons to go along with the Fleet Master's command ability. We then look at the Scourge Runner Chariot, which is the suggested build for the box, and I really recommend you probably build this variation as it is a Scourge Privateer unit and therefore it gains all the benefits from being able to take the command trait from the general and also be a Battleline option. and it has a really cool shooting attack with the giant monster hunting harpoon that can do some mortal wound damage, which is a really good addition to the rest of the stuff in the box, as it is the only mortal wound you're going to get out of this box. Scourge Chariots are also incredibly fast and really cheap, and do come with a horde discount as well when you take 3 of them in a unit. It is important to remember though, when building this model, that you can only build the champion model if you have 3 of this Scourge Chariot in the unit. So to suggest you don't build the champion model at the start and just build a regular Scourge Chariot. The same rules also apply for the Drakespawn Chariots, so you just build the generic Drakespawn Chariot. The Drakespawn Chariot's differences is that it's much more combat orientated. It doesn't get the shooting potential, but it does do some impact hit mortal wounds on the charge. This is, of course, could potentially go well with the rest, however you will not get any combat benefits from command abilities specific to Scourge Privateers. The last model in this box is the Charybdis, or the War Hydra, and this is an interesting one, as Charybdis are really cool inside Anvilguard. There is a particular mount trait, per se, that you can take, which allows you to put -2 bravery on your Charybdis. This stacks with a Charybdis already -1, making a Charybdis -3 bravery order is really cool. The Charybdis isn't necessarily your hardest hitting monster in the army, but it will take care of other small chaff units and little heroes standing by themselves. He does have a decent save at a 4-up. His movement is rather slow though, although thanks to his handlers you can make some long bomb charge rolls by allowing you to discard a dice. However, on doubles you may suffer some mortal wounds. The alternate build for this particular model is the Hydra, and the Hydra is much more fighty than the Charybdis. He doesn't necessarily have all the particular buffs because he won't be able to be affected by the Blackout Corps' command ability, but he is a solid monster and does some healing naturally. So, all in all, I really think this is actually a really quality start collecting box. This is a great way to start your Anvilguard force. It really, all the units in it, especially if you build them as on the box, tie in well together. They all complement each other, and it's a really, actually, with the amount of battle line you get in this, it's a great foundation for an army. So, where to go next with this army? As always, some of these units you may want to bulk up. We mentioned things like you only get the champions with the Scourge Chariots and the Drakespawn Chariots if you're taking units of 3, so that's definitely a suggestion to buy more of them, and definitely a good idea to buy more of the Blackout Corsairs, as they will probably be your mainline battle troops in this army. Some other cool options you could take is definitely look at taking a Sorceress. She is a Dark Elf magic user, has a -1 hit spell, which is always welcome in any army. However, you may want to also bring alongside her some Dark Shards, Dread Spears, or Bleak Swords, which are all Darkling Coven's cheap troops. Dark Shards are my particular favourite because their shooting is a much longer range than the Blackout Corsairs, and they also give something else. The main reason you want to bring this unit along though is to sacrifice for your Sorceress to get better at casting spells. She gets a +2 to cast by just sacrificing 1 dude from a Darkling Coven's unit, so she gets to cast some spells a bit easier. This especially goes well as we were saying before, there is a spell in particular called Vitriolic Spray within Anvilguard Allegiance that you can take, which turns an opponent's save to dash. So the only downside with this spell is that it is relatively hard to cast, though by sacrificing a Darkling Coven's model you might be able to cast this spell a bit easier. Other suggestions for this army, especially if you've built your stuff as the Hydra and the Drakespawn Chariot, would be a Dreadlord on Black Dragon. That kit can also be built as a Darkling Sorceress on Black Dragon as well, though the Dreadlord is definitely the one I suggest more than the other. It is a fantastic combat monster, and even if you haven't built the other units as Order Serpentis unit variations of the Drakespawn Chariot and Hydra, he is a powerful combat monster that will go well in the army. The Darkling Sorceress is a wizard and the same, however she does lack a bit of that combat potential and staying power that the Dreadlord has due to being a wizard and not a fighting hero. Of course, if you buy this Dreadlord on Black Dragon and add him to your force, you may want to bring some more troops that combine with him. I would strongly suggest getting at least a unit of Drakespawn Knights to go along with him, as they take all his buffs and work really well in combination with him. But that's what I suggest for this Start Collecting box. If you have any questions about this particular Start Collecting box and where to go forward from this, I would be more than happy to answer, and leave some comments down below if you have any more questions. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and we'll be going through this entire series of all the Start Collecting boxes over the next few weeks. Hope you enjoyed this. Stay safe everyone, stay healthy, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. I will see you all later.